When a man truly misses you, he doesn't announce it, he exposes it. Not through poetry, not through promises, but through the cracks in the armor he tried to wear when he thought he could live without you. That's the moment people rarely speak about, the moment when some emotional certainty collapses under the weight of your absence. You see, longing is a powerful force. It strips away ego, dismantles pride, and reveals who a person actually is. If he truly misses you, he won't be able to maintain the illusion of indifference. He will slip. He will break character, and that break will tell you more than any performance ever could. You'll notice it in the sudden messages that come at times he used to be silent. You'll see it in the way he circles back to memories, as if he's trying to anchor himself in a place where he once felt grounded with you. He will search for you in old conversations, old photos, old moments. Because missing someone isn't just emotional, it's psychological. It disrupts a man's internal order. It forces him to confront what he walked away from and what he cannot replace. And here's the truth many people avoid. A man doesn't miss you when you chase him, when you remind him, when you plead for connection. He misses you when you disappear from the space he took for granted. Your silence becomes louder than any words you could have spoken. Your absence becomes a mirror he can no longer escape. That's when the slip happens. That's when he double-checks your social media. When he watches your stories but pretends he didn't. When he asks mutual friends how you're doing while insisting he's just curious. Pride tries to lock the door, but longing finds a key. Missing someone makes a man inconsistent in all the places he once presented himself as strong. When he misses you, the mask falls off. He becomes unpolished, human, honest. And you must understand something vital. His slip-up is not your cue to lose yourself. It is not your signal to run back with open arms. It is merely data information about where his heart is beginning to crack open. What matters is how you stand. If you anchor yourself in strength, in clarity, in self-respect, his slip-up becomes the beginning of his accountability. But if you abandon your standards, the moment he shows weakness, then his slip will harden back into old patterns, because he'll realize you're easier to regain than he feared. Missing you is not enough. Action must follow the ache. A man who truly misses you doesn't just text at midnight, he shows up at noon. He doesn't just revisit the past, he works to build a better present. He doesn't hide behind nostalgia, he steps into responsibility. When he misses you, he will slip up by revealing that he still cares, but when he loves you, he will follow that slip up with commitment, intention, and effort. This is why your strength matters more than his longing. Your value doesn't increase because he misses you. It was always there. His realization merely exposes what he failed to see before. Do not let his moment of weakness become your moment of surrender. You are not waiting for a man to remember you. You are observing whether he is worthy of re-entering the life you are building. Missing someone is emotional. Returning with purpose is moral. And a man who aligns emotion with action is a man of character. So understand this clearly. If he misses you, yes, he will slip. He will reach out. He will falter in his attempts to pretend he has moved on. But your task is not to celebrate the slip. It is to evaluate what follows. Does he grow from it? Does he rise from it? Does he transform that ache into responsibility? Missing you is only the beginning. What comes next determines everything. Stay strong. Stay grounded. Stay focused on the life you are shaping, not on the temporary emotions of someone rediscovering your value. Because the moment you choose yourself, you become the gravity he cannot escape, the presence he cannot replace, and the standard he must rise to meet. A man reveals his truth through behavior, not excuses. When he misses you, his discipline cracks, and his real intentions surface. That single moment when a man can no longer maintain the emotional armor he built tells you more about him than any carefully crafted words ever could. People can rehearse explanations. They can sanitize their stories. They can pretend they're unaffected. But longing has a way of forcing honesty out of someone who tried to hide behind control. When he misses you, he doesn't just feel it, he leaks it. It shows in the pauses that suddenly become messages, in the way he tries to casually return as if the universe just reminded him you exist, in the way his mind keeps looping back to what he walked away from. His discipline isn't just about self-control. It's about ego, image, pride. And when all of that starts to crack, you get to see the unfiltered version of him, the version that isn't performing strength, but revealing vulnerability. He will start to say things without thinking, not because he plans to, but because missing someone destabilizes the emotional framework he convinced himself was solid. He might reach out with something small, "Hey, have you been?" as if he's not wrestling with memories at 2 a.m. He might comment on something insignificant, because his real intentions feel too heavy to admit directly. That's how missing someone works. It pushes truth through the smallest openings. It forces confession through cracks he didn't notice forming. You'll notice him showing up in ways he once dismissed. He'll remember details he claimed weren't important. He'll revisit conversations you thought he ignored. He'll bring up moments you thought meant more to you than to him. That's the reveal when he misses you. The things he pretended to forget rise to the surface like submerged truths gasping for air. He can try to stay composed, but his emotional discipline will betray him. Men are often taught to manage their feelings through silence, distraction, or pretending disinterest. But longing doesn't negotiate with pride. It exposes the truth piece by piece. You'll see him watching your stories from an account he thinks you won't notice. You'll feel the shift in his tone when he realizes you're not as accessible as you once were. You'll sense the urgency behind things he frames as casual. This is not manipulation. This is human nature. When he misses you, the mask becomes too heavy to hold up. His real intentions, whether genuine, conflicted, or confused, begin to show through these small fractures. But here's where your power matters. His slip is not your invitation to abandon your strength. It is not a reason to rush back into emotional labor. His missing you is his truth, not your responsibility. Your task is to observe, not react. Strength comes from understanding that longing doesn't automatically equal commitment, effort, or change. A man can miss you deeply and still lack the maturity to treat you the way you deserve. Missing you exposes his intentions, but it does not guarantee his growth. His behavior after the slip, that is what reveals his character. Anyone can feel your absence. Anyone can crave your presence, but not everyone is willing to rise into the man you require. So pay attention to what follows the cracks. Does he attempt to rebuild connection with integrity? Does he speak clearly instead of hiding behind vague nostalgia? Does he show consistency instead of fragmented impulses? If he truly values you, missing you won't soften his ego, it will align his actions. Your role is to stay centered. Don't let his sudden vulnerability pull you back into the orbit of old patterns. Missing you should not reward him. It should challenge him. It should push him to confront why he lost access to you in the first place. Strength means letting him feel the discomfort of his own realization. Your self-respect is not a tool to comfort him. It is a standard he must meet if he wants to return. Because when a man misses you, it is not just emotional, it is clarifying. It forces him to see the difference between desire and effort, between attachment and accountability. Let him reveal himself. Let him show whether the crack in his discipline is merely emotional weakness or the beginning of emotional maturity. Do not chase his slip-up. Do not interpret it as a promise. See it for what it is, truth rising to the surface. For months, he might have convinced himself he was fine without you. He might have played strong, acted distant, moved on with distractions. But the human heart is not obedient. It reveals itself when reminders hit too deeply, when silence becomes too loud, when the memory of your presence outweighs the pride that once kept him still. That is the moment you witness the real him, not the one he pretended to be, but the one he cannot avoid becoming. And while he is confronting that truth, you must confront your own. Do you want the man who misses you, or do you want the man who values you? Missing you comes from emotion. Valuing you comes from character. One is involuntary, the other is chosen. So if he misses you and his discipline cracks, let it. Let the truth come out. But stand firmly enough in your worth that you don't bend simply because he broke. Because the moment you choose yourself first, his slip will not control you, it will expose whether he is finally ready to show up with the intention, effort, and courage he once lacked. Distance forces clarity. If he values you, he moves toward you, even when it costs him his pride. That single truth reveals more about a man than all his confident words, charming gestures, or temporary displays of affection. Distance strips away illusions. It exposes what is real, what is shallow, and what was only convenient. When there is space, silence, separation, the absence of your presence, every man is forced into an encounter with himself. Without distraction, without the comfort of having you available, without the predictable rhythm of your emotional support, he suddenly finds himself face to face with the truth of what you meant to him. That's when clarity sharpens like a blade. He will either recognize your value and move toward you, or he will allow his pride to drag him into the comfort of avoidance. And the man who values you does not stay still. He moves sometimes awkwardly, sometimes humbly, sometimes through the discomfort of admitting he was wrong. Because distance does something pride cannot fight. It reveals the difference between ego and heart. When he values you, he doesn't hide in silence pretending he's unaffected. He doesn't convince himself you'll come back first. He doesn't sit behind walls built from excuses, fear, or stubbornness. Instead, he takes the difficult path. He risks rejection. He risks vulnerability. He risks looking foolish because the cost of losing you is heavier than the cost of lowering his pride. And this is where true character shows. The man who values you becomes willing to confront his own discomfort, while the man who only liked the benefits of your presence will retreat into the safety of distance. Distance becomes the filter that separates emotional convenience from emotional commitment. You will see this shift in the small things first. He may reach out in an unpolished, imperfect way. He may try to start a simple conversation, not because he lacks depth, but because he fears misstepping. He may show up to clarify something that didn't matter before, because suddenly everything matters. He may admit he's been thinking, not because it's easy, but because the silence made the truth impossible to avoid. This movement toward you, even if slow, even if unsure, is a sign of value. Pride resists, but sincerity persists. That's the difference. Distance also forces him to confront the version of himself he was when he had you. He will replay the moments he dismissed. He will rethink the things he said casually. He will realize how many emotional efforts you poured into the relationship that he considered normal, automatic, or expected. Real value becomes visible only in absence. And when he feels that loss deeply enough, he doesn't wait for fate to fix it, he acts. Men who care take action. Men who value move forward. Men who recognize what they stand to lose choose courage over comfort. But you must understand this. His movement toward you means nothing if you abandon your own center. Distance should also force clarity for you. It should reveal whether he is returning out of temporary longing or genuine respect. Your strength lies in watching what he does, not what he says. Anyone can send a message out of loneliness. Only a man who values. You will follow it with effort, consistency, and accountability. Your task is not to shrink because he finally moved. Your task is to evaluate his movement with grounded eyes. This is why your composure matters. When he sees you living with dignity, purpose, and emotional independence during the distance, he understands something powerful. You are not waiting for him. You are simply observing him. You are not dependent on his attention. You are discerning his intentions. And that alone forces him to rise or retreat. Distance doesn't just reveal his clarity, it reveals yours. If he moves toward you, it should be because he values you, not because you filled the silence before he had to feel it. A man who values you will show this through disciplined action. He will not leave you confused. He will not hide behind vague gestures. He will not approach you in half measures. He will communicate. He will take responsibility. He will show the courage to rebuild, repair, or recommit. That is what distance forces, a confrontation with truth. And for a man of genuine value, that truth becomes fuel, not fear. So let him show you who he becomes when distance removes comfort. If he values you, he moves toward you, even when it costs him his pride, even when it requires apologies that feel heavy, even when it means admitting he failed to appreciate what he had. Pride is cheap. Connection is priceless, and a man who knows your worth will always choose the path that leads him back to you, not because it's easy, but because he cannot afford to lose someone who brings meaning to his life. Distance is the ultimate test. It reveals his heart. It reveals your strength. And it reveals whether the connection was built on convenience or genuine value. If he comes forward, let it be because he rose, not because you bent. Let his movement reflect his respect, not your desperation. And remember, a man's pride might hesitate, but a man's heart moves. Always, when a man feels your absence, he stops entertaining distractions, because nothing replaces the emotional gravity you created. That gravity is not built from desperation, not from effort, not from chasing. It is built from the quiet strength of your presence, your standards, your depth, your emotional intelligence, and the authenticity you brought into his life. When a man truly feels your absence, it is not just silence he experiences. It is a shift in the emotional atmosphere around him. Suddenly, conversations with other people feel shallow. Suddenly, the attention he used to enjoy becomes noise. Suddenly, the distractions he once used to escape connection feel meaningless. Because your absence is not just a lack of contact, it is the removal of a psychological anchor he didn't realize he depended on. And the deeper the connection you created, the harder it is for him to replace the emotional weight of it. A man might convince himself he's fine when you're gone. He might try to drown your memory in trivial interactions, but eventually the contrast becomes too sharp to ignore. Nothing feels like you. Nothing engages him like you. Nothing pulls him inward the way your presence once did. When he finally feels that shift, The distractions he used to lean on start losing flavor. The conversations that once entertained him begin to feel repetitive. The social validation he used to enjoy becomes hollow. Your absence creates a vacuum he cannot fill with substitutes. Because what you provided wasn't entertainment, it was depth. It was grounding. It was emotional direction. And when that kind of presence disappears, he notices in the quiet moments first. The late-night hours he used to feel comfortable in now feel heavier. The mornings he once rushed through now feel empty. The spaces where he used to hear your voice echo mentally become too silent to ignore. This is where distractions begin to crumble. He may try to keep busy. He may try to socialize. He may try to move on quickly. But missing someone isn't fought in the external world, it's fought internally. His mind returns to you not because he wants it to, but because emotional gravity pulls him back toward the place where he felt most aligned. Understand something. Emotional gravity is created when you bring consistency, honesty, softness, strength, boundaries, and depth into a man's life. It is created when you offer clarity instead of chaos, authenticity instead of mind games, intentional energy instead of scattered attention. A man who experiences that kind of presence can never truly replace it. He can distract himself, but he cannot duplicate you. And the moment he feels your absence, his soul recognizes the difference. This is why he stops entertaining distractions, not because you demanded it, not because you punished him, but because his heart has already made the comparison for him. Distractions are cheap. Your presence was rare. But here is where your power must remain steady. His realization is not your obligation. His longing is not your responsibility. When he feels the emotional gravity of your absence, he will try to reconnect in ways that reveal his internal conflict. He may reach out subtly, pretending it's casual. He may check on you quietly, hoping you don't notice. He may test the waters, not because he's unsure of you, but because he's unsure of himself. Missing you forces him to confront what he took for granted. And every man responds differently to that realization. Some rise, some retreat, some transform, some crumble. Your role is not to soften his discomfort. Your role is to remain grounded while he wrestles with truth. As he stops entertaining distractions, he begins to examine his own behavior with greater clarity. He notices the emotional laziness he carried before. He recognizes the immaturity in the choices he made. He sees how carelessly he treated something meaningful. The contrast awakens him, because distractions fade quickly, but the emotional imprint you left does not. That imprint becomes the mirror he cannot escape. It forces reflection. It forces growth if he chooses it. And that choice is what reveals whether his missing you is born from genuine value or temporary longing. Your absence teaches him what your presence truly was. It reveals the emotional nourishment he no longer receives. It exposes the stability he no longer feels. It highlights the connection that others fail to match. And the more he tries to replace it, the more he fails, because emotional gravity cannot be imitated. It is earned through authenticity, vulnerability, and strength. The important thing is that you do not disrupt this process. You do not chase. You do not fill the silence for him. You do not dilute the lesson your absence teaches, because the moment you step back prematurely, he doesn't have to rise, he only has to reach. But when you remain strong, he must choose growth to meet you. That is why emotional gravity is powerful. It doesn't pull him toward you. It pulls him toward becoming better for you. A man stops entertaining distractions when he realizes the difference between attention and connection. Attention stimulates the ego. Connection nourishes the soul. And when your presence nourished him, your absence deprives him. That deprivation becomes clarity. That clarity becomes desire. And if he is a man of depth, that desire becomes action. Your absence does not make you lose value, it reveals it. It doesn't weaken your influence, it strengthens it. Because when a man feels your absence, the world around him loses color, until he returns to the place where his heart once felt alive. And if he has the courage to grow into the man capable of valuing you fully, he will move not out of fear, not out of loneliness, but out of recognition, out of clarity, out of respect. Your strength is in your standards. His slip-ups mean nothing unless you remain centered, composed, and committed to self-respect. That single truth determines the outcome of every emotional dynamic you enter. Because a man slipping up texting suddenly, reaching out impulsively, acting nostalgic, showing signs of missing you means absolutely nothing if your response collapses the moment he shows a trace of vulnerability. Your power has never been in what he does. Your power is in how you hold yourself when he does it. Standards are not lines you draw for him. They are boundaries you enforce for yourself. They are the rules by which you protect your heart, your dignity, and your emotional equilibrium. And if those standards crumble simply because he finally cracks, then his slip isn't a sign of love, effort, or character. It's just noise. His behavior only gains meaning when it meets a woman who refuses to abandon her center. Because when you remain composed, grounded, and self-directed, you force him to rise to meet you instead of dragging you down into the same old patterns that kept you stuck. When a man slips, when he reveals that he still cares, when he shows that your absence affects him, when he softens after pretending he didn't need you, it can be tempting to rush back into familiarity. You might feel relief, excitement, validation. But this is where most women lose their power. They mistake emotional leakage for genuine effort. A slip-up is human. A slip-up is accidental. A slip-up is uncontrolled emotion breaking through the performance of indifference. But effort is intentional. Commitment is deliberate. Transformation is consistent. And the only way to tell the difference between a moment of weakness and a moment of growth is by remaining centered long enough to watch what he does next. Your standards give you the patience to observe his follow-through instead of reacting to his impulse. Self-respect is not something you declare, it is something you demonstrate. You demonstrate it by not over-interpreting a late-night message. You demonstrate it by not rewarding inconsistency with availability. You demonstrate it by responding with clarity instead of emotional hunger. Because a woman hoping will abandon her standards for the smallest hint of attention, but a woman knowing will wait for alignment. This centered energy is what teaches a man how to treat you. If you collapse the moment he remembers you, you teach him that your boundaries are negotiable. But if you remain composed, you teach him that your standards are real and that if he wants access to you again, he must approach with intention, maturity, and responsibility. Remaining centered also protects you from illusion. A slip-up is often a sign that he feels the absence, not that he understands the value. People can miss what they didn't appreciate. People can desire what they aren't prepared to honor. People can reach out from loneliness, not clarity. This is why your composure matters. It keeps you from building expectations on top of his impulses. When you stay grounded, you see the situation clearly. You see the difference between emotional reaction and emotional capacity. You see whether he is acting out of ego, nostalgia, boredom, or genuine recognition. And you cannot see any of this if you abandon your center the moment he appears. Your standards force alignment. They require him to rise. They demand growth. When you hold your center, you're not playing hard to get, you're holding true to yourself. You're refusing to sacrifice your mental peace for emotional crumbs. You're choosing to act from dignity instead of desire. And dignity is the one thing that makes a man step forward with seriousness. A man will not grow for a woman he can easily regain, but he will evolve for a woman he fears losing again. Your composure is what creates that contrast in his mind. Your confidence is what forces him to assess his own behavior. Your self-respect is what pushes him to confront the parts of himself that sabotaged the connection the first time. You teach him how to treat you by how you treat yourself. Holding your standards does not mean being cold or dismissive. It means being selective, calm, clear. You do not react to the slip, you evaluate it. You do not rush, you observe. You do not bend, you stand. You let him reveal his consistency over time. Because a man who values you will move from slip-ups to structure, from impulse to intention, from excuses to effort. And if he doesn't, then his slip-up was just emotional noise. Your standards protect you from mistaking noise for a signal. The truth is this. A woman who is centered becomes unforgettable, not because she is unavailable, but because she is stable, because she knows who she is, because she refuses to negotiate her worth for temporary comfort. That kind of woman cannot be replaced. And a man who wants to be in her life must elevate himself, not because she demands it, but because her strength inspires it. Your standards are the filter that separate a man who is curious from a man who is committed. Your composure is the force that separates a man who slips from a man who steps up. And your self-respect is the message he reads louder than any words you speak. If you want access to me, come correct, come consistent, come with character. So remember this, his slip-up only matters if you stay steady. His moment of weakness only has meaning if you respond from strength. And his desire only becomes valuable when it meets your standards, not your longing. Your self-respect is the lock. His growth is the key. Let him earn his way back, not with impulse, but with intention.